happy Tuesday. It is a Q&A office hours with Professor Latanya White. So I'm just jumping on, getting into the habit of being where I said I was going to be at the time I said I was going to be there. My sister likes to tell me that I'm always late, and I don't quite believe her, but clearly I'm doing something to give her that impression, so I'm working on changing that. What we're doing today, and I'll just spend a little bit of time doing introductions for people who are going to be jumping in a little bit late. And then of course, if you can't catch the live, you can always shoot me an email at meetprofessorwhite, Prof White at Gmail, and I'll just shoot you the most recent edition of Fearless Times. So last week in Q&A office hours, we covered from the Pivot Workbook. We covered the first assumption, and that is your focus where it should be? This week, we're going to go right into kind of, digging a little deep in there and asking, is your idea even the right solution? So just a little bit of background on who I am: an entrepreneur, educator, mentor, and coach, and a published author. So the Pivot Workbook is actually the second publication of mine. My first book is Becoming Fearless, and that's really the story behind the story of how I started 71 Proof. That business, which provides bartending services, professional bartender staffing, and bartender training, is actually 10 years old. And, people would always just look at me in awe of what I've done with the business. And I really was just kind of going right along. So what I realized was I had never shared the part of my story that got me to the place with 71 Proof where I was, I literally had no fear with that business. And so that's what Becoming Fearless is. I tell the story of the trials and tribulations and the very, very painful place that I was in when I started the business, and what I'm doing and how I got to where I am in the model that I've used and that I teach and share with my students and clients. So that's what Becoming Fearless is. It's a system and it's an outcome. The steps within that system are building your foundation, evaluating your marketing messages, analyzing your position in the competitive environment, retraining you on what you see as your self-worth, leveraging efficient systems, and then creating a sustainable business once we kind of package all that together. So that's the system, and again, it is also the outcome. What I've seen in working with minority populations, people of color, and specifically women of color, what I've seen is most times people are held back by fear, and just no matter how much talent or creativity or passion that we have, there's that fear or that mindset of fear that gets in the way. So the Pivot Workbook actually is the required text for the classes that I teach, as well as for Pivot University. And that's a 12-week intensive coaching program that I'll be launching very soon. I'm leaning towards the end of the year just so that I can kind of get through my first couple of major assignments for my PhD program. But also, members of the Becoming Fearless Academy, which is a monthly coaching subscription program, will actually get dripped out the different exercises and concepts that are housed within Pivot, and we focus on one thing at a time. Because what happens, we have so many distractions. There's Instagram and Snapchat and the next new big social media platform, and there's family and kids and work, and there's so many things. So instead of bombarding people with too much information, we're just gonna distill it down and focus on one thing per month. So this month, and you get to be a product of some of that with the Becoming Fearless Academy. Not all of it, naturally, because a part of what my blue ocean strategy is access, acceleration, and assessment. So what I mean by access, this is access to me, right? For the last 3 or 4 years, I've never had traditional office hours. Students have to schedule their appointment with me. That means what I want to be able to do is connect with them one-on-one, and I do the same thing for all my clients, and for the most part, all my friends and a lot of my family. I rather connect with you one-on-one so that we can dive deep into whatever it is that you're needing. So that's access. On the acceleration part, I have a combined 20 years of experience in sales, so customer relationship management, hospitality management, people management, people and talent management, training and development. So all of that has been just like wrapped up into this 170 page workbook. And you can kind of see within the workbook, it's formatted for you to write in. It's formatted as a fill in the blank interactive workbook. And then the assessment piece, that's really what separates how my clients connect with me versus how I just serve the communities that I'm connected with. So assessment is sometimes you just don't know if you're doing the right thing. You know, you have all this information about marketing, you have all this information about pricing, you have all this information about building your website and all these things, but do you know if you're doing it right? So that's where the assessment piece comes in, and that really is a play on who I am as an educator, although I get in trouble a lot because I don't always do my assessment reports on time for other things. Now within the Becoming Fearless Academy and Pivot University, that's easier to do, right? Because I've really been doing this for the last 7 years, for the last 10 years, really in business for myself. So the question for this week is your idea the right solution? And this is a tough question because we go into business assuming that we have everything we need. We assume that our idea is the best thing since sliced bread. Hey Tim, thanks for joining. We assume that, you know, once people find out that we're in business, we're going to be providing them with everything that they ever thought they ever needed. But that's not always the case. So in the workbook, one of the exercises for determining whether or not your idea is the right solution is to first make sure that you understand the customer pain or problem or the frustration that they're dealing with. So Tony Robbins, you know, world-renowned speaker and coach, he talks a lot about people only paying for pain or pleasure. And most times, especially as a business owner, your customers are facing more of a pain than they are looking for pleasure. That's why it's so hard to sell weight loss and to sell health and fitness, because it's easier for me to eat whatever I want to eat than it is for me to make healthier choices about what I eat. Now, once I'm feeling the effects of just eating whatever, I'm going to go pay the next best personal trainer, sign up for the next diet program, buy the next pills, get the next waist trainers. I'll spend all that money to undo what I've done now that I'm feeling this source of pain. So the one of the very first assignments or exercises for my clients to really look into is to watch a TED Talk. It's by Simon Sinek, and it's actually one of the top 5 viewed TED Talks of all time. And the speaker, his name is Simon Sinek. He's an author and a researcher, and he is the brains behind this concept called the Golden Circle. So I can drop a link to that TED Talk, or you can just, you know, go Google after this, because then you won't be listening to me. But Google Simon Sinek, last name is spelled S-I-N-E-K, or just Google the Golden Circle TED Talk, TED TED Talk. The idea is, so there are these 3 concentric circles, right? So the outer circle, that's the what. Every organization, no matter how large or how small, knows what they do and knows how to articulate what they do. Like me, you know, I'm an entrepreneurship educator, right? The most inner circle, the middle circle, is how you do it. So as an entrepreneurship educator, I engage with students and clients through mentoring, coaching, and access. That's how I educate people. Or I can say how I do that is based on the 20 years combined experience that I have in professional sales, in direct response marketing, and freelance copywriting, those kinds of things. What Sinek goes on to say, hey, Miss Edna, thank you for joining. What Sinek goes on to say is that innermost circle, and it's the smallest circle within this graphic, is the why. And that's the thing that most organizations do not articulate enough. So again, just to kind of sum it up, the golden circle is your what. That's the outer ring. That's the easiest thing to say. The inner circle is how you do that what. But what you have to focus on to really stand out from your competition, to really connect with your prospective clients, is to articulate why you're doing this. And he makes a point of saying that your why shouldn't be connected to the revenues that you'll get. Like if you do your why or your what good enough, revenue and profit will come. But in making sure that your idea is the right solution, you have to know what it is people are in need of. So once you have your golden circle articulated, your what, how, and why, the next thing that we kind of look at is what's the pain that people are experiencing that they need you to help them solve. Again, I'll pay for the diet pills, I'll pay for the waist trainers, I'll pay for all of those things when I could just pay more to eat better in the first place. So that works for you. It kind of works in your favor as a marketer, because no matter what business you think you're in, you're really in the business of marketing the solution that you offer. Because without marketing, no one knows about you. Without customers, you don't make any money. And without making any money, you can't stay in business. So make sure that you understand that you're a marketer first. All right. So as a marketer, that works for you. It works in your favor to know that people will pay for a solution to the problem that they're facing. Your job is to make sure you know what that problem is. So one of the other exercises is really based on a podcast interview that I listened to maybe 1.5 years ago. So if you've never heard of Pat Flynn, his last name is Flynn. His website address is Smart Passive Income. Let's see if I can type this in. smartpassiveincome.com. So if you go to that website, you will see on Pat Flynn's webpage at the top right hand corner, unless he's reformatted his website, he'll have a number like $148,779. That's how much money he made last month. Every month he shares how much revenue that he made, and his entire website, his entire platform is built around this idea that he's making money from what he knows. So one of the guests that he had on last year, his name is Dane Maxwell. This guy is the owner of 3 multi-million-dollar software companies and doesn't have the first software engineering degree. And he did this, he built these businesses because he uncovered a particular pain that people were experiencing. I have a link to that interview, but you can always just type in Dane Maxwell SPI podcast or Smart Passive Income podcast. And one of the things that he said was his uncle is in real estate, and he was just griping and complaining. He was so frustrated about something one day. And Dane asked his uncle, he said, well, what kind of solution will help you with that? So his uncle flat out told him, this is what we need. So right here, we already know what pain there is. We even have an idea from the customer what solution they want and are willing to pay for. What did Dane do? He doesn't have a software engineering degree. He went out and hired the people to build that software. That was the first of his 3 multi-million-dollar businesses. What you have to do is make sure that you're open enough to hearing people tell you what it is they need. And in my case, I've been teaching in the classroom in the university setting for I've been teaching there 7 years now, but this started about 2 or 3 years ago, where people would ask me like, do you do business coaching? Do you provide that kind of service? I'm like, no, I don't want to coach. I just want to make sure that you understand these concepts, and I just want to teach. Like, I just want to teach. But that's not what people wanted. Like, people they want that accountability. They want that mentoring. They want that hand holding, because a lot of times, especially in communities of color, we just don't feel safe. Like, we don't know who to trust. We don't know who really has our back. And so I had to make sure, I had to start taking my own advice and saying, well, so this just teaching thing, just telling you what Blue Ocean strategy isn't enough. Like, I had to open up and say, well, if people are telling me this is what they want, then I have to be open enough to modifying my business plan or my business approach to giving people what they want, right? You know, to say, give the people what they want. If they're going to pay for it, give them what they want. Make sure that there's an intersection between what people want and what you love to do. That's where you find that real sweet spot. So the pain project is a really, really fun exercise. It makes you get out of your bubble. The first thing though is you have to know who your ideal customer is, who your perfect prospect is. This is the person, I kind of mentioned it in last week's Q&A. Your perfect prospect is the person that does not negotiate your rates. They value you for who you are. They value your expertise and everything that you bring to the table, and they know that they're making an investment in the services that you offer or the products that you manufacture. That's an investment and not an expense. So now you think about who that person is. Then you say, well, how do I get more of that person? You need to know where they spend their time, how they make their decisions, what are they influenced by, and operate in those circles so that you get more of that particular customer. Now, once you have that customer, then we go and we kind of do these. There is basically referred to as getting out of the building. You're welcome, Miss Edna. So get out of the building, get out of your own way, and get out of your head. Let other people tell you, people who are likely to become your customer, because we know that not everybody is for you. We know that. Like, we can just put that elephant out there. We could just say that. Not everybody wants to see you succeed, but you know, the best revenge is living well. Make sure that as you're completing this exercise, and I would love for you to share what you've learned if you actually complete the pain project, is make sure that when you're doing this, you're looking and interviewing people that could be your customer. So it's a simple 2-question interview. The first question is, what is one task or what is one task that you complete on a regular basis as it relates to whatever type of business you're doing? What's one task or activity that you complete on a regular basis that frustrates you? That's the first question. You have to make sure that you're putting it into context. So I think with Samantha, who just joined us, thanks, her husband is in construction. Is that right? So correct me if I'm wrong, Samantha. So if you're thinking about the clients that you have that you absolutely love and absolutely want more of that type of client, go to that client and ask them, what task or activity do you complete on a regular basis that frustrates you as it relates to construction, remodeling, whatever that real context is. For Miss Edna, you might ask the parents of the children that come to your community center, what's one task or activity that you do on a regular basis that frustrates you when it comes to your child's academics? So it might just be that the new math they're teaching gets the child to the same answer, but they teach it in a more convoluted way, right? So then now you know what pain people are facing. Is your job to provide them with the solutions that can address that pain and that they're going to be willing to compensate you for. So I know you are, yay, construction, I got it right. Hey, Lakeisha. So Ms. Edna, I know yours is more nonprofit, but you could even have this kind of conversation with potential donors. Like, what pain or frustration do you experience when it comes to making donations to local nonprofits? Maybe they say we don't get enough reporting. We don't see what the outcomes are enough. So your job is to make sure that you're providing reports on a regular basis, not just at the end of the sponsorship event or the end of the grant cycle, but you're providing outcomes and reporting to them on a more consistent basis. Hey, Ms. Deravine. Hey, Michelle. And what we're talking about, just to kind of catch everyone up, is making sure that your idea is the right solution. So of course the live will be up for, I think it stays up indefinitely, but if you're on my email list, I'll send you the recording for this and tomorrow's, I have to find the book, tomorrow's Instagram live where I'll be covering the E-Myth Revisited. So this is the book that saved 71 Proof. Hey, Stephanie. So we talked about the golden circle, and so for those of you that are just joining us, it's based on a TED Talk, and the author is Simon Sinek. You're welcome. I'm glad that was helpful, Miss Edna. The author is Simon Sinek, and what he says is that all organizations know what they do, like construction and restoration. You know what you do. All organizations, or most organizations, can say how they do that, you know, through specific certifications and permitting and all this background and experience, which is all well and good, but that's not what really drives the connection to the customer. So you have to focus on why you do it, and you have to make sure that you articulate that why in your marketing messages, and your About Us page. Like, the About Us page isn't just that I have 20 years of experience in professional sales, freelance copywriting, and direct response marketing. That's all well and good, but what does that mean for you? So that's the first step, is making sure that you can articulate that why. And then what we were just talking about was the pain project, and that's making sure that you're open to getting the feedback from your market about what it is they are frustrated by and what they're willing to pay for, or what types of solutions they're willing to pay for. So if you have any questions, I'm trying to keep my eye on the comments. The thing with the pain project is it actually is accompanied by a video challenge. So if you're up for it, and then I'll recap this in the email that goes out on Friday. So Fearless Times is the weekly newsletter that I send out, and I can recap the video challenge for those of y'all that are up to it. Because again, if this whole thing is about making sure your idea is the right solution, you want to make sure that you get feedback from the marketplace. So with the pain project, what you would do is identify 5 of your perfect prospect type customers and ask them that 2-part question, or that 2-part interview. What pain or frustration do you experience on a regular basis as it relates to whatever industry or service you provide? And then a follow-up question, which I didn't mention, was what solution do you think would address that for you? So let people tell you what they want to pay for. You'll find that what you have in mind, what you're married to, what you're committed to, might not be the thing that people are ready to pay for yet. I know I find myself typically about 2.5 years ahead of my time. Some of you may know, and I share this often, that when I was at the Small Business Development Center, I would get dinged, right, administratively, because I preferred and I would seek out stage 1 entrepreneurs, or people who just had an idea, but the funding was going towards making sure that stage 2 businesses were growing and getting to the next level. And so me being the rebel that I am, I was just like, well, if they aren't getting what they need at stage 1, they'll never get to stage 2. So where are we today in a faculty meeting, and SBDC people are talking about they're going to be focusing on stage 1 businesses? Can I tell you, I was fuming. Like, that's not the F word I want to say, but I was heated. So I just find that I'm about 2.5 years ahead of my time in most cases, and you might be too. You know, you might be such the expert and such the resource in whatever it is that you're doing, that you see so far ahead of your current market that they aren't ready for the products and services that you want to offer just yet. So again, the pain project allows people to tell you what they're ready for, what they're willing to pay for. And also, you know, you can, depending on your relationship with them, thank you, Samantha, depending on your relationship with them, you can start to get some information about their price sensitivities. You know, what's too high for them and what's too low. I know a lot of you, and I'm calling you out, I know a lot of you have customers and clients that tell you you're not charging enough. I'll wait. I'm looking for the thumbs up, because I know y'all are out. I know everybody out there has clients that tell them you aren't charging enough, which again is only feedback that you'll get from being in the market and being open. Okay, there they go. All those thumbs up. I knew they were out there. But so here's your video challenge. And you can just send me this via email, although it doesn't serve you as much if you don't share it on your own pages, your own social media profiles. But what you want to do is talk through your golden circle. And you have 5 minutes to do all this, so don't just ramble on about what your golden circle is. So what's your golden circle? Your who, your what, how, and why. Make sure you spend more time on your why. What is the pain that you're committed to solving based on the interviews that you conducted? Now, if you're doing these 2-question interviews and everybody is reinforcing the product or service that you're already working on, that's great. That's great. But again, be open. If they're telling you they're willing to pay for something else, be open to incorporating that something else into your business model. Like the title of the workbook isn't called Pivot for nothing, because every exercise really makes you look, you know, kind of turn, reflect and look to see if what you're doing, if you're on the right path. So that's what a compass does, right? It kind of tells you if you veered off the path or not. And that little divot is called a pivot. Like that's the thing that makes the compass make you turn or change paths or change directions. So who typically experiences this pain? Is it, you know, in Miss Edna's case, might it be people of color that live in the south side of Tallahassee? You know, who is it that typically experiences this pain? So we're talking about your broad audience now, not your perfect prospect. There's a difference between your target audience, and for me, that's aspiring entrepreneurs, and your perfect prospect, who is a woman of color who aspires to start a business, right? So your broad audience, your target audience, is different from your perfect prospect. And for your video challenge, you're really kind of honing in on your broad audience in this case. What products and services, and I'm reading again if you're just joining me, can't find the front. So reading from the Pivot workbook, this is the required text for students and clients that I work with, because this really is everything I've learned in the last 20 years as an entrepreneur and educator and a business professional. Like, it's crazy that I can get everything I know in less than 200 pages, but it is what it is, right? So what products and services will you be developing or offering that addresses the specific pain that you learned about from your interviews? How can the problem be monetized? Or I'm sorry, how can the solution be monetized? 3 ways, not just one revenue stream. They say most millionaires have at least 7 revenue streams. So we can get started with 3 at a minimum. And then, who are 3 competitive organizations that are already providing a similar solution? It might not be exactly what you want to do, and it shouldn't be, right? Because you're an innovator. You're on the leading edge of creating services that address this particular pain, but we know there's nothing new under the sun. So I'll kind of give you just a brief example of that. When you look at a couple that, you know, it's date night for them, let's say it's Tuesday night is date night, they have the option between going out to eat, going bowling, going to watch a movie, or they can just red box it. So those are 4 different competitors already offering a solution for them for a date night. So don't just think because you're a movie theater that you aren't competing with the local restaurant. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? So to recap, if you're going to participate in the video challenge, so tell us your golden circle. Tell us the pain that you're committed to solving. Of course, introduce who you are and the name of your business. Who typically experiences this pain, and this is your target audience, not your perfect prospect. The products or services that you are going to be developing or offering. 3, a minimum of 3 revenue streams, and then at least 3 competitors. And that's how we can kind of make sure that what you want to do, even if you have to pivot a little bit, what you want to do and the idea that you want to offer the world is the right solution to the pain and problems that your audience faces. So are there any questions for me? And again, that's just the summary. Yeah, that's just a summary of assumption 1.2 from the pivot workbook. And that assumption is you're assuming that your idea is the right solution. So my question for you, is your idea the right solution? So I'll wait a couple seconds for questions. I know it's heavy. This is one assignment that my students are just like, really, Miss White, like, really, I'm just here to get this degree. So, but I'm like, nah, if you're gonna be spending 16 weeks with me, we're gonna do some things. We're gonna make some changes in the world. So that's where I am. I don't see any questions popping up. Again, if you want to get the recording, if you want it to come straight to your inbox, if you spend too much time on Facebook like I do, you can just shoot me a personal message or shoot me a message, or send an email to Meet Professor White, and that's PROF White. Tomorrow or on Wednesdays, what I do on Instagram, I call them Professor White's Notes, which are like Cliff's Notes, is I'll actually be sharing the Cliff's Notes to the E-Myth Revisited, and this is by Michael Gerber. This is the book that has me sitting before you today, because if I hadn't found this book, I would no longer, 71 Proof would have been out of business 7 years ago, and I never would have got my teaching position, which never would have opened the doors for this. So I paid $2.67. I got it from the Goodwill bookstore. So Michelle, you can send me an email, and then I'll make sure that you get the most recent edition of Fearless Time. So that's the newsletter that I send out on Fearless Fridays. So if you're going to participate in the video challenge, you have until, I really want to say you have until this Friday, but you know, I won't do y'all like I do my students. I'll give you until next Friday to get your interviews done and get your video recorded. Like, don't make it too hard on yourself, okay? So, all right, Michelle, send me that email. The name of the book, The E-Myth Revisited, that one, that's what I'll be covering on Instagram tomorrow. But what I've been using the Q&A notes is from Pivot. This is the workbook that I designed, or that I developed from all the exercises that I would create from reading books like The E-Myth or Blue Ocean Strategy, The New Rules of Marketing and PR. Last week we did the official Get Rich Guide to Information Marketing, like those kinds of things. So, all right. Well, thank you all for spending your evening with me. I look forward to your success, and of course, I look forward to your fearless videos. All right. Have a good evening. I'm going to hang out with the little professor. Bye.